In what ways have real estate private equity funds changed since the 1980s for the better? And have they changed at all for the worse?
For the better, without a doubt, is they're more transparent. The original private equity funds tended to be, you give me your money on this, I'm going to do the right thing with it, but don't ask me to report a lot. You know, if you want reporting, go get in a REIT or go do a private syndication. I'm not here to report, I'm here to invest. And so don't ask for a lot of reporting and don't ask for a lot of transparency. I think driven by the increased transparency over the last 20 years that's come about in the public market, you've seen that private equity firms have also had to increase their transparency. They still are not as transparent as a publicly traded company, but they've come just enormous distance on by transparency. What do I own? What do I think it's worth? Why do I think it's worth that? What is my plan to do with it? Do I have debt on it? Do I own all of it? Do I own part of it? Is it above water? Is it below water? All those kind of things. So the biggest change I've seen for the best is much greater transparency. Stan Ross and I wrote a paper maybe 10, 12 years ago. And Stan is kind of a legendary guy in the business. And our paper was really admonishing our friends in many cases to, if you want people's money and you really want it for a long time and you want the opportunity to flourish with it, get transparent on your own. And I think the industry heard us and has done a great job. If you said, what's the thing that's probably happened to the worst? The thing that's probably happened to the worst was not intentional, but it occurred. The notion of a private equity fund in the beginning was, you, dear investor, pay enough fee that I can break even on my overhead, where I'm paid a minimal salary and all my employees are paid market wages, and I pay market rent for my space and so forth. But the point is, I'm not making any money from the management fees. Where I'm really going to make my money is from the carried interest, from the promote, my share of the profits, from my sweat. And in that situation, while interests weren't perfectly aligned, they were pretty well aligned. On a $100 million fund, I was only going to get $1.5 million in fees. If you went through my overhead was $1.4 million, you know, because secretaries have to be paid and analysts have to be paid and associates have to be paid and so forth. And I was making no money from the management fee. All the money that I was going to make was being paid from my share of the profits, and I was highly incentivized to generate profits. And in fact, think of $100 million under management. You're going to generate $1.5 million in fees. You've got employees. You're a person who maybe could go to work for somebody and make $1 million. There's no way as a private equity manager with only $100 million you're going to get paid what you could get paid, but you're going to get a share of the profits. Very well aligned. As these funds have grown, you've got funds that have, you know, $10, $20 billion of assets under management. Well, now you start doing what even a 1% fee on $20 billion is $200 million. You can hire a lot of analysts for $200 million, and suddenly you're making enormous money as the manager, even if you never make it as an investor by the profit share. Now, that doesn't mean they don't want the profit share, but it reduces the alignment. So as these private equity funds have gotten large, and I mean large, in their success, the economies of scale of operation have made them highly profitable, very highly profitable, even if they never generate profit for their investors that give them a carried interest. That's probably the worst thing that's happened. Now, it doesn't mean there's no alignment. It just means it's just like it's not perfect transparency, and transparency was the big gain. It's not like there's no alignment of interest, but the interests are not as well aligned today as they were when all these funds were small.